is done. Interestingly enough, on the front page of the WashingtonPost.com right now, my column about 2024 is up because the presidential campaign for 2024 begins the day after the voting is done. And I'm getting hammered for this column because it just lists everyone who was mentioned to me as a possible 2024 GOP nominee in the last 2 weeks. So I just listed them. I kept a little notepad, and if someone mentioned in passing, Marco Rubio is going to be running, or so this, I just listed them. So in the column, they are Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, former ambassador to Germany and former acting director of national intelligence Richard Grenell, former ambassador to the United Nations and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, this is alphabetical, of course, White House Chief of Staff and former North Carolina Representative Mark Meadows, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, National Security Advisor Robert C. O'Brien, Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse, Florida Senator Rick Scott, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, Pennsylvania Senator Patrick Toomey, Donald Trump Jr., and Ivanka Trump. Now, of course, if President Trump were to lose in 2 weeks and 2 days, he could be eligible to run again. And if he got in, at least 2 Trumps would get out. But after listing all this, I mean, everybody knows Vice President Pence is going to run. And I think everybody realizes Mike Pompeo and Tom Cotton are going to run. And I think most people realize that Marco Rubio is going to run. But the question is, what about the other 17? That's just a recording. I'm not endorsing. I'm going to be neutral in this thing. Back to Switzerland on the radio, as I was in 2015 and 2016. I know most of these people. I've interviewed them all. And they're all welcome to come on the show beginning November 4 and talk about their vision for the country. But instead, I got hammered because I left off Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland and Governor Charlie Baker of Massachusetts. Look, I got nothing against these 2 people. Larry Hogan's been a guest on the show. I think Charlie Baker cuts a pretty good figure up there in Massachusetts, but they haven't been mentioned to me. So it's the great mentioner. If you don't mention them to me, I'm not going to put them in a list of people who've been mentioned to me. So that's going to be the story of November the 4th. The story of November the 3rd is whether or not the Biden emails actually made a difference. Now, this morning, and I would like to hear from you, 1-800-520-1234. Do the Biden emails make a difference to you? Here's my caution. Everybody who's listened to me for the 20 years I've been doing this show know that in 2004, I instantly recognized Rathergate as a fraud. Instantly. It made no sense. It did not make a lick of sense. And because those documents were widely distributed, Powerline and others, and I helped, exposed those documents as a fraud, and Dan Rather got fired. Rathergate should inform the Biden emails and the Biden computer. All right? We had no idea where those emails or the documents that were produced in Rathergate were alleged to have come from. CBS just told us they were standing by their story. They were fake, and we figured it out. A couple of people, but especially Powerline, compared type fonts, etc. Well, the issue with the Biden emails is not the provenance of this computer. We know it was dropped off at a computer store. The owner gave it to the FBI. He kept the hard drive, gave the hard drive to Rudy's lawyer. The Rudy's lawyer gave it to Rudy. Rudy gave it to the Post. The question is, was it ever doctored anywhere along the way? I don't think anyone's even seriously arguing that it was Hunter Biden's computer. But you've got to realize that if it was, it could have been doctored. And you could mix fake emails in with real photos. Now, I'm not going to talk about any of Hunter Biden's personal problems. That is wrong and threatens everyone in recovery who listens to any show anywhere. And I hope they don't play the intimate tapes. I think that would be wrong. But the only question is, did the vice president, when he was vice president, use his office to advance the financial interests of his family? And post-vice presidency, did he deal with the Chinese Communist Party? Those are the only questions that matter to me. Hunter Biden can go off and do whatever he wants to do and pretend to sell access that he doesn't have and flim-flam people if he did. That doesn't matter. What matters is whether or not the vice president used the office of the vice presidency to advance the financial interests of his family, or if after leaving office he did business with the Chinese Communist Party. This morning, for the first time, the New York Times has touched the story. Now, they did it the backwards way. New York Post published Hunter Biden report amid newsroom doubts. So this is the way that the New York Times finally recognizes reality that everybody in the country is talking about the Biden emails and the two questions I just asked. Did Vice President Biden use his office when he was vice president to advance the financial interests of his family? Or did Joe Biden do business with the Chinese Communist Party after leaving office? This is their way of saying they didn't duck the entire story. They've been silent for 4 days, but this will break open the doors. And of course, they're 2 weeks and allegations that more emails are coming. But the same questions will arise. Are they authentic? Here's the New York Times story. The New York Post front page article about Hunter Biden on Wednesday was written mostly by a staff reporter who refused to put his name on it, 2 Post employees said. Bruce Golding, a reporter at the Rupert Murdoch-owned tabloid since 2007, did not allow his byline to be used because he had concerns over the article's credibility, the 2 Post employees said, speaking on the condition of anonymity out of retaliation. Coming late in a heated presidential campaign, the article suggested that Joseph R. Biden Jr., Vice President Joe Biden, had used his position to enrich his son, Hunter Biden, when he was vice president. The Post based the story on photos and documents the paper said it had taken from the hard drive of a laptop purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden. Many Post staffers questioned whether the paper had done enough to verify the authenticity of the hard drive content, said 5 people with knowledge of the tabloid's inner workings. The tabloid is a newspaper, is a platform. It's the same thing as the New York Times. It's absolutely the same thing as the New York Times. It is less biased, in my view, than the New York Times. Staff members also had concerns